The Commanders are 4-1. Enjoy it, folks. Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Keim Report wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Ampire Media, Ampire. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And don't forget, you can read my work on ESPN.com. I have a story up now about the Commanders' 34-13 win over the Cleveland Browns. That'll be up on ESPN.com. Just about, folks, it's different here, and the players know it. So anyway, go read that. And by the way, don't forget, Tuesday night, 7:30 Eastern time with Bram Weinstein, the voice of Commanders, and I for the live stream. Join us there. And I also have another game review Tuesday morning. So folks, it's starting to get fun. Tune in for this stuff and start to revel in it because this is a good team. Now, there's a lot to talk about with this one. I'm going to start with the fact that this team has created a home field advantage. And this is one of the first times you really start to see it where you can really start to feel the energy. Dan Quinn talked about it on the 66-yard pass to Terry McLaurin. Sam Cosmi agreed that was as loud as he's heard since he's been here. This is the way it's supposed to go, folks. You guys create the energy, but it has to start with their play. You can't do this for them if they're not doing it for you. And that's what's starting to happen. And this is why players, I think, are really, really starting to enjoy. Not starting to enjoy. They're having as good a time as any team I've seen, but maybe in a long, long time since I've been on this beat. I haven't seen a team that plays as together as this one does, or that plays for one another like this one does. And you go back to the Joe Gibbs era, and the thing you always heard is how much they played for one another. And you see that now. Just the energy they bring in. There's a lot that stems from Dan Quinn. I'll get to that in a few minutes. There's a lot that stems from Jayden Daniels, of course, in his performance. But I also think there's a lot to do with bringing in the right guys and knowing how to create the right atmosphere. And that's what they've done. It all has swirled together to combine to put this team at 4-1. Yes, 4-1 going into next Sunday's game again at the Baltimore Ravens. And folks, this is a question I'm going to be asking this week. Is this the best offense in the NFL? I mean, this was a really good showing against a good Browns defense, despite the numbers they put up, despite the points that get scored against them. That is a good defense, and we saw the problems that they created early in the game and what Washington did to still produce. That was impressive. In the old days, this is a 13-10 kind of win, 17-13, whatever it is. Not today. This is a different era because this team is different. Number 5 can take credit for that. There's so much more that goes into it. And again, I'll get to some of that in a minute. Some of the stuff that Cliff Kingsbury's calling. It's all of this, folks. And it's funny because I was talking to Jeremy Reeves afterwards, and I just kind of said, do you know how to deal with this? And he's like, bro, I was just talking to Jeremy Chin saying, like, I don't know how to process this. He said he's got people blowing up his phone from back home in Florida who just for the first time ever are paying attention to the team he plays for. The Commanders are talking about the Commanders. Said he does get asked more about Jayden Daniels than anybody else, and more so than even about him, but they're paying attention to him. He's like, it's weird for him to turn on the TV and hear them talking about this team, going on social media and seeing what they're saying about this team, and for a change in a good way, because the last few years, nobody wanted to go on TV or go onto social media and listen to what they were saying about this team. But folks, that's what's happening now. And that's, again, what Jeremy said. He's been one of the longer tenured guys here since 2018. You have Tressway here since 2015, the only player who's played on a winning team in Washington. So that's currently on the roster. So actually, you know what? Jamison Crowder is as well. So I forgot about him, but right now he's on IR. So there you go. But the bottom line is it's a new day. And I think you're starting to see that. Now, let's go to the fact that Cleveland is not a good team. That offense is not any good. And their quarterback is having a lot of struggles. I did tell you that Deshaun Watson had been incrementally getting a little bit better. And I felt like he did a decent job against the Raiders. He was not the reason they lost the previous week. But Washington made him look really bad. And that's what you do against a team that's struggling. As we know, the Commanders have not had a great defense this season or even last season. All those changes, and they did make improvements last week. They saw more this week. And sometimes it's just a matter of building that confidence. Yes, they play a high-powered Baltimore offense next week. That will be a major struggle. But I don't know that whatever happened in that game, it's going to change the confidence I think that group is starting to get. So, yes, that'll be a great challenge. This was not necessarily a great challenge, but it was a really good game that the defense played. Those things can both be true. Cleveland has a bad offense. The Commanders did not let them get going at all. And so, even in a sudden change at the start of the second half, they kept them out of the end zone. That was key. Now it's 24-3. You get a touchdown there. I don't think it necessarily changes who wins this game by any means. However, it does make things more interesting. And the fact that they kind of bowed up and after a turnover and held them to 3 points deep when it was deep in their own territory, that's a good sign. They did a really good job on the run, 7 sacks. So I think is there more to prove there? Of course, we can't. It's hard to say that after the Browns, watching the Browns offense, that there's just not a lot that they're threatening you with. And again, the quarterback has no rhythm. The line is a mess, but they did what they were supposed to do. And what would you rather have? Like a game was like, well, Cleveland's offense isn't very good. Or would you rather say like, geez, even Cleveland's offense could do this against them? They did exactly what they should have today and then some, because 7 sacks is way above and beyond, right? And they did what they should have done against that team. 212 total yards. That's really good. And so in 2 games, they've now given up 27 combined points. That's impressive. Here's the other stat that you should know. So in the last 2 weeks, they've won back-to-back games by combined 49 points. The last time they won back-to-back games by 20 or more points was 1997. There's a lot of things that are going back first time 4-1 since 2008. So there's a lot of things. Jayden Daniels, the first quarterback in history to start his career in the first 5 games and throw for more than 1,000 yards and rush for more than 250 or more. So here's another one. Washington's the first team since the AFL-NFL merger in 1970 to score 150 or more points in the first 5 games with a rookie quarterback. So it just continues that up. So if there's anybody out there that still says, well, they haven't done this or that, well, okay, they're 4-1. Did you expect it? No. Can they get better? Yes, because this is one of the things that I like about this team. Every guy was like, Jayden Daniels in his press conference talked about there's stuff we left out on the field. He's like, we have to improve. You hear that from, whether it's Sam Cosmi, Austin Eckler, Terry McLaurin, all those guys would talk about the same thing. Yes, they're excited, but they're not sitting there saying like, oh, we've arrived. I think they understand, like, as someone close to Jayden Daniels told me recently, he didn't come here to go, this is about a week ago, he didn't come here to go 3-1, right? That's not the goal. So like, yeah, okay, it's great that you have to get a good start, but the goals are a little bit higher than a 4-1 start. And I think that's important to note as well, because I do know that there are teams in the past that did not handle it as well. Sometimes it's because they're just not that good. They don't have the same quarterback play. Like if you had a worse quarterback out there today, that game could go different. And we'll get to that in a minute. But I remember back when the last time they started 4-1 was 2008 with Jim Zorn. Well, that team started to assume they were a certain team. I remember one time being outside for an interview and watching Clinton Portis talk to a teammate. He's kind of interviewing a teammate for some in-house thing. And he just started saying championship, just kind of say it in that kind of tone. And it was like, okay, they're excited, but it was mid-season. So my point is like, there were some guys that certainly then that felt like they were going to a certain place because they were playing. And I think Jim Zorn felt like he had all the answers as a first-time coach. That's not how this team is. This team, you have Dan Quinn talking about areas they can improve while also praising and grasping onto the now and saying like, yes, that was good, but this is also what has to happen. So I think there's just a lot going on with the mindset. I even said this after the first game. I like the approach that he took after the first game, the loss against Tampa. I like the approach he took after the second game. Yes, you won the game, but yes, there's a lot more that has to be done if you want to get to this level. So, and I went back and I said earlier about them playing for one another. One of the things I liked too, in talking to Terry McLaurin after the game, was just how he brought up De'Ami Brown. I kind of felt bad for Brown because I wanted to talk to him, but he dresses right next to Terry McLaurin's locker. And McLaurin's getting dressed the same time as Brown's getting ready to leave. And I got to get to McLaurin, right? Brown gets out of there without anybody. I don't know how many people talked to him. He deserved to be talked to today. And I want to go up and talk to him on Wednesday just to get some insight into his game and what he saw. But I like that McLaurin singled him out and said, that how happy he was for him because he's been on a tough journey as well. And he went out and had a huge game, a big game, nice touchdown catch from Jayden Daniels. So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Guys will single out someone else other than themselves just to kind of pass along that credit and keep that team bond going. So I just think that there's a lot of positives going on. Listen, you look at, I brought up, Frankie Louvu, right? 2.5 sacks, fumble recovery, Bobby Wagner, 1.5 sacks. Guys that were brought in the offseason to do exactly what they did today. Louvu is an energetic beast out there. I mean, that's the way he plays. I mean, he brings so much energy. He's so strong. He's tough. He's got all that going for him. And you saw that again today. And Dorrance Armstrong, another good game, another sack. Tyler Biotis has made a big difference at center. Nick Allegretti at guard. So there's a lot of other guys besides Jayden Daniels who have come in and contributed. Mike Samerstill continuing to get better. We've seen every game, you're seeing a big hit by Samerstill. You're seeing some big plays or a breakup by Samerstill. So that's the stuff that's taking place. Those rookies should continue to ascend, you would think, right? Ben Sinnott doing some help as a blocker more. So, McCaffrey contributing some. So there's a lot of things that are coming together for them with guys who were brought in from the outside. Again, far from a finished product, 12 games still to go. But here's the thing. In the past, they would say, well, there's a lot of football left. And what that meant was, well, we're 1-4. We can still do this. They're not at that point. They're saying 4-1, there's a lot of football left. They understand that you just have to keep taking care of your business, which is why it's funny because that was one of the songs they were playing on the loudspeaker after the game but that's what they've done. So that's what they have to continue to do. Otherwise, this just becomes a good start, and you don't want to waste a good start. Now, and how good can they be? So much more remains to be seen because I don't know. And I don't know that anybody really knows. Maybe they know. What I do know is that they're a very confident bunch, and that confidence, you can ride that confidence wave and help you kind of fight through adversity. And then when you see number 5 making the plays he does, you just feel like just stay in the game, and he'll find a way to make a big play. So a lot going on. Then the culture. I asked Sam Cosmi about this after the game, not specifically about the culture, about what, just like, after what you've been through here, what does this feel like? And he brought up the culture, and he and John Allen credited Dan Quinn for creating a certain energy in the building. And that's something that's been evident all along. It's why, going way back to the beginning of that coach search, this is what I heard from other people around the league about Quinn. Again, 5 games only. So, I don't want to go overboard, but I do think we all know that it's a lot different here now. So one of the things that Cosme said is, basically paraphrasing, he said, they're not just talking about it, they're acting on it. And that, clearly there was a lot of talk about culture the last several years, but and sometimes you felt like it was kind of getting there, but this is just different. I think, again, bringing in guys like the Wagners and the Luvus, and again, I'll credit Jayden Daniels for that as well, because just his approach, like Luvu said after the game, he and Bobby Wagner get there at like 5 or 6 in the morning, and Daniels is already there. So when you see him doing that, and then you see what he's doing on the field, as Luvu said, it's not surprising. So that's what's happening for right now. And I think, but it is funny because I think it's hard for some to fully grasp it. But what I know is, if you saw Cosme mic'd up last week, how much fun he's having. It's legit. I mean, those guys, like every one of those guys, are saying things like that. And I think that makes a difference. And then you have little scenes like this. So after the game, I'm in the locker room, going back in the locker room after talking to Jayden Daniels in the press conference, just to see who else is there. And I see London Fletcher clutching the game ball as he and Bram are interviewing Dan Quinn. So then someone pointed out, like, hey, Quinn just gave London Fletcher the game ball. And that's because this is London's first game back after his wife had died. And sorry, folks, like, it's a sad thing. And if you didn't know about that, like, he lost his wife recently to cancer. And you see what I saw from Fletcher was just pure. It was probably the first feeling of joy that he's had in a while, and just getting that ball, being back in that atmosphere. And after they were done, Quinn gave him a hug. Then Adam Peters came over and gave him a big embrace. And as did myself and Nikki Javala after that, because you know what, so it's a sad thing, but it was a nice moment and a nice gesture for Quinn to do that for him, and understanding what he's meant to the franchise and that he's a part of this in a different way, but also to say, like, as a human, like, hey man, this is horrible. Because so anyways, back to the game. So, but that's the stuff that's going on. So one of the things that early on in the game, the Browns defense, and we talked about this on the podcast, is how fast they are, and that aggressive front seven, like they were causing Washington problems early on. But the one thing that's hard to do is get Jayden Daniels on the ground. And so there were time and time again where I'd see Browns defenders kind of slam their hand in the turf after a play because they just barely missed him. Whether it was Zadarius Smith, whether it was Koromoa, whomever. There were a few guys who did that. Grant Delpit. That's what kept happening. And they, Washington couldn't get anything going consistently. But what they showed is the ability to hit big plays. They used at times the Browns' aggressiveness against them. And then also sometimes it's just hey, Jayden Daniels can make plays that others can't. And we saw that in the first quarter now, where he gets outside of a pass rush and avoids the rush and gets outside, keeps his eyes up, big key. That's what he needed to do, and hits Terry McLaurin for 66 yards on a dime down the field. Like, those throws are really hard to make. And it was similar to that 3rd down and 7 against the Bengals for 27-yard touchdown, just a dime. Now, the drive ended poorly, and Daniels showed that he was human. The one play he shows he's Superman. The other play, he's Clark Kent. And he throws an interception to that Koromoa gets. Okay. But then they come back, the defense forces a 3 and out, and Washington just starts to take control. But again, going back to that Browns defense, they did a really good job of creating negative situations for Washington, and it forces you to just don't make the killer mistakes, right? And don't give the ball deep, don't give the ball to them in your own territory, because that's where it could get problematic. But they kept hitting the big plays, and the Browns, after that play that to McLaurin, and even Dan Quinn said, like, because of that, like, he felt like they had to start when Daniels would roll, they'd really have to plaster on their guy, because the fear was, would he hit that guy? And that's what he did. That's why they've worked so much and emphasized so much keeping your eyes upfield, because this is the result of that, right? And what also happens off that, he said, because of that plaster guy, now he's got more openings. You're going to play man, you're going to play zone and plaster. Now you're going to create some more openings for him. And that's what happened on their playing man coverage. He gets outside on a 34-yard scramble on one play. He had 82 yards rushing. On the 33-yard pass to Eckler, another example of just, to me, using that aggressiveness. So it's a 3rd down and long. He'd gotten some pressure on the previous play. Really, really good job. I love the play call. Koromoa is coming off the edge for a blitz, coming right at him. Eckler just sneaks out. They probably thought they're going to keep guys in the block. Sneaks out, screen pass. You got Cosme, and I think it was Biotis, leading them down the field. Really, really good play. Nobody was there. So playing man behind it, just really, really good play. Another one was the 50-yard run by Eckler as well. So the Browns were doing a good job getting penetration, shooting through gaps. Koromoa is really fast. I love that, watching that guy. You know that I thought this team should have drafted him a few years ago, and you can see why. The dude just makes plays fast, plays with energy, really impressive player. But on this one, there's sometimes, though, you got to use that aggressiveness against a team. So on the 50-yarder, they're using Zacchaeus on a fake jet sweep. So you got action going from right to left. Now you got 2 pullers coming around from left to right. And what you see is there's a little bit of hesitation. The safety's coming up. There's a little bit of hesitation from Koromoa. And as Koromoa starts to come, though, here's a third angle. You have Bates coming from right, tight end on the right, coming inside and just sealing him off. And you got 2 pulling guards coming through. Eckler's through there for 50 yards. Just a really, really good play design to me. And just a number of guys who executed well. That's the other thing with this run game and the offense. Like, the execution is just so much better than it's been in a while. And again, when it's not, sometimes you still have number 5 who can make plays. And boy, what a luxury that is to have someone like that. The other part is too, like, look at last week. Eckler's out. Jeremy McNichols goes in and does a good job. This time, Noah Brown's out. Probably a good game, a good matchup for him. De'Ami Brown comes in and makes a couple big plays. So, that's the kind of stuff that starts to happen. And when you do that, it just one thing builds on another. And the good thing for this team too, and for Daniels, he wasn't perfect. Like 14 for 25. There were some more errant throws that he's had. This is a good defense that he played, a faster one. They put some pressure on him. Did get sacked. He also said he was stayed down for a little bit. He said, I was over exaggerating. They said he came out of the game just to get Mariota in there. I'm sure there was a little bit of banged up a little bit, but he said that was not, nobody said that was the reason he came out. And he did say he over exaggerated staying down after that sack, but he wasn't perfect. He found a way. And that's what you have to like about it. Like what happens when things aren't going perfect for you, you just stay involved. You make plays. Playmakers make plays. And I think that's what he did. He had a bad pick, goes out and plays a better game after that. Offensively, did you hear Myles Garrett's name called a lot? No. Hey, Brandon Coleman started left tackle. I think he and Cornelius Lucas were alternating quite a bit. I think, again, they did what they should against this team. So, man, I don't know. I don't know where else to go, folks. I'm going to be watching the game again Monday and most of Monday and talking about it Tuesday. So that's it for me. By the way, if you got any comments to leave down there, what did you think of this game? How excited are you? Because I think this is something that is really starting to build. So I am curious to see, do you believe now? What's your level of belief? And I know some of you are going to say, listen, there's only 5 games. I agree with you. It's only been 5 games. We've all seen teams that after whatever games that things happen, go the other way. So there's a long way to go. But I think I'm just curious, how excited are you? Anyway, folks, that's it for me. I'll be back on Tuesday morning with a game wrap, another game review after watching the All-22, going over it a lot and just talk. I'm going to find a couple aspects to talk about. And then again, the 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, Tuesday night Zoom with the voice of the Commanders, Bram Weinstein. Join me there. Folks, I'll talk to you next time.